I'll show you what the inside looks like so you can see how much room you've got, and just come in the tent. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another edition of Dan Becker Outdoors in my backyard. This is my backyard, actually. If you are just tuning into this channel for the first time, I film a lot of videos in my backyard. But anyway, this video is about the Gossamer Gear The Two. That's what they call it, The Two. Gossamer Gear did send this tent out to me because I asked them for it. I was just looking at this tent for a long time, was headed out to Zion National Park on a backpacking trip and said, hey, I would love to check out that tent. Would you guys be willing to send it out for me to check out and maybe even do a review on it? There was no commitment on my end. They don't get to see this video. I'm not being paid at all. So they don't even know what I'm gonna say about this tent at all. And I've got good things and I have some, a couple not so good things to say about the tent. So first off, this is a 2-person trekking pole tent. And what you're gonna notice right away is that I'm using their Gossamer Gear trekking poles. These are my favorite trekking poles for sure. I've used these trekking poles for, I don't know, probably a little over a year now. And they're only about 5 ounces each. So these are about as light as you're gonna get for a trekking pole. And they're very expensive. They're $100 a piece. But I love them. They save my arms when I'm hiking to have such an ultralight trekking pole. And when you set up a trekking pole tent, if you don't know what a trekking pole tent is, it's just simply set up with your trekking pole. So it doesn't come with like the poles of a typical standard tent that you would normally see. And that definitely saves weight. Trekking pole tents are gonna be a lot lighter. This particular tent is a tent that you're gonna wanna set up the trekking poles with the handle on the top end and the tip in the ground per their instructions. So this is a single wall tent. Most trekking pole tents are single wall tents, but a single wall tent does have its negative sides. So like a single wall tent is gonna be prone to condensation. The difference is a single wall tent is really one piece of material, whereas a double wall tent is gonna have the net portion of the tent as your tent, and then the rain fly, the other portion of the tent, thrown over the top to form essentially 2 walls. And why that's good for condensation is because that condensation is going to be on the outer wall of the tent, not on the inner wall of the tent. So you're not necessarily going to get wet on the inside of the tent in colder situations, wintertime, late fall, early spring, that kind of thing. When the temperature dips down, you wake up and you're like, well, it didn't rain, but why is everything inside my tent wet? Well, it's probably because you're in a single wall tent. So that's one of the downsides to a single wall tent. The positive side to a single wall tent is it's gonna be a lot lighter. There's a lot less material to it. A couple things that I really, really like about this tent out the gate. They do have a lot of attention to detail for sure. So the zippers are actually waterproof zippers. So when you unzip and zip these up, it's a little bit tighter of a zip, so it's not as easy to zip up and down, but the seams are sealed like waterproof zippers, so that's pretty cool. So attention to detail. The other thing I really like is that all of the guy lines and even the zipper pullouts are of reflective cordage. So at night, you're not gonna trip over anything. You're gonna be able to see it with your headlamp. It's gonna reflect back at you. So that's really nice. Now with most trekking pole tents, you're gonna have issues like this. They're not as easy to open with one hand. So like right here in the corner, you're gonna usually have trouble getting these open with one hand. That's okay, you just take a second hand and you can open up the tent, but just be aware of that with trekking pole tents. They're not as easy to typically open up. Another cool thing about this tent though is that these vestibules have the ability to open up wide on both sides. So if you got a good view of some mountains or it's not gonna rain, you can really get some good views or just get really good ventilation. You just detach this clip here and you can unzip this. I think there's a bee under here, so we gotta be careful. Let's find out. Is there? Oh, there he goes. Yeah, so that way you can put both vestibules back if you want to, roll them up. And you've still got this guy line here holding the tent up. I mean, that's pretty cool. A lot of trekking pole tents don't have that feature, so they're gonna need like at least one door, so it keeps the tent standing up. So that was a really well thought out feature. And vestibules, if you don't know what a vestibule is, it's just these sort of flaps that go over the doors, and you can throw like your backpack under there, your any gear that you don't want inside of the tent. that's gonna make your tent dirty. You throw it outside and it stays dry underneath sort of these doors or vestibules. And there's one on each side for you, for the other person. One thing to be completely aware of when you buy trekking pole tents like this, or this trekking pole tent in particular, is that it's gonna have a huge footprint. It's just a very large tent. Now it is a 2-person tent, and they do sell a Gossamer Gear The One. So it's a much smaller footprint if you get the one, but then you've got less room on the inside. But this is gonna be difficult to say if you are a stealth camper, you know, you're trying to kind of hide your tent a little bit. You don't want to be super seen, so you're trying to maybe go off into woods like I've got back here. Well, it's going to be difficult to find places to really open up your tent and pitch it the way that it's meant to be opened up for. So, I mean, you can get around that by maybe shutting down the vestibules on one side and lessening up that footprint, but something to consider as you're looking at this tent. One thing I do like about this tent for sure is that all of the guy lines where it's staked out are adjustable. So if you do see like here where it's you know, not super taut, it's kind of wrinkled up, you could just pull on the guy lines here, tighten that up. Or let's say it's rained all night long and you wake up and you're like, why did my tent sag? Why is it all looking like it's drooping in on me? Well, nylon is meant to stretch, it will stretch. And so you just wake up in the morning, you give those guy lines a good tug and it will, you know, it's just gonna tighten back up. So it's really nice that they put those on all of the ends. Would have been nice to kind of color code it, I think. Sometimes it's hard to tell where the head end and the foot end is. I'll show you what I've done to always remember where the head end and the foot end is by coming over here real quick. So this, I've just tied a guy line on my head end, and this is vital if you are tall like me. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall, and if I don't have this tied out here to open up the interior of the tent, this tent was like literally just falling in on my face. And so I was not gonna sleep. So what I've done is I've tied a guy line just on the one end. That's all I've needed. I didn't necessarily need it on my foot end. You can put one on the foot end to open it up even more if you want to. But then what I do is I just take a stick so I can come straight out from the tent and then back into the ground. And I just give it one loop around the top here, back down to a stake, and that will stay just fine. So this tent is gonna come with these stakes here. These are just the stakes that they send out, just cheap aluminum stakes, probably not even manufactured by them. I don't know if they probably buy these, would be my guess. Most tent manufacturers are gonna come with cheap stakes, and they're gonna give you a really nice tent, and they're either not gonna give you stakes or they're gonna give you kind of junky stakes. I bring one of these with me for this end of the tent, and then I buy, it comes in a 6-pack, I buy the MSR Groundhogs. These are much, much better tent. You can tell just by how much effort it takes to pull it out. But this is a tent that I've had in sand, I've had it in rock, I've had it in dirt, all kinds of stuff. This is the full-size Groundhog, and I take these with every tent. So these are really, really nice. And then they just stick in the ground, obviously, I like to put mine in at about a 45-degree angle. That way there's a lot more strength when the tent is pulling back on you, so just keep that in mind. Some people say 10 degrees, I just do 45. But why don't we go inside of the tent? I'll show you what the inside looks like so you can see how much room you've got, and just come in the tent. Let's go in the tent, huh? Welcome, come on in the tent. So this is the inside of the tent, obviously. Now, the head end of this tent is 48 inches. Oh, look at that. I thought that was in the tent with me. That would have been bad. The head end of the tent is 48 inches. The foot end of the tent is 42 inches. So what that means is, like, I've got a 25-inch wide sleep pad here by Nemo, and it's the regular length. But you're not even gonna be able to get 2 of these 25-inch wide pads in here. Only gonna be able to get 1 in here. If you want 2 pads in here, they're probably gonna have to be 20-inch pads or maybe 23-inch pads. I know that Climate sells 23-inch wide pads, so that's about as wide as you're gonna get. So keep that in mind as you are in this tent. Now, this is what I was talking about having headroom here. I'm 6 feet 2, and without that guy line tied out there, this was for sure coming right down on my head here. So it's kind of nice. Each person does have their own pocket to stuff some gear into. Now, one thing I really didn't like was this tent doesn't have like a loop here in the middle to hang a headlamp. I mean, I just don't understand that. I kind of feel like that was an oversight. So I like to hang a headlamp or some sort of a light in my tent at night, so that would have been really nice to have. They do have loops here to toggle the doors, the screen, the mesh doors up here, which you can use to hang a headlamp if you want to. But other than that, it's not really super feature packed. This is really meant to be sort of a minimalist tent all the way around. Now everything is factory seam sealed and factory taped, so all of the seams are going to have the tape on them. That was done at the factory. It wasn't done like after the fact somewhere else. And so you're not going to have to do that yourself. And this tent does have extremely good ventilation. So it does have really awesome ventilation. So like right down here, you're going to see, and here, air compressors from my neighbor. This down here, tons of ventilation coming through here. And then you'll see outside where the tent does extend farther. So like if it's a lot of weather, rain, that kind of thing, nothing's going to be coming inside of your tent. So that's pretty cool as well. Again, you can see the factory sealed seams. Would I recommend this tent for a trekking pole tent? Absolutely. This tent retails for $375. Sounds expensive, but for what you're getting, this is about a 23, 24 ounce tent with the guy lines attached to it. The quality of the build, what this tent is capable of doing for two people. Yeah, I highly recommend this tent. This is probably one of the best trekking pole tents on the market. So awesome tent. All right, so that is my quick and dirty review of the Gossamer Gear The Two. The Gossamer Gear The Two. Say that 10 times fast. If you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Also subscribe for more. Hit the bell notification so I can send you a video every time it's released. And I will see you on the next one.